Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and to the garage. Today we got another Mach-E video, so let's get started. Okay, let's talk charging on this. So in town I just use a standard 110 volt regular outlet, and that's good for about 1.3 kilowatts an hour, so not very fast. I put a watt meter on it and it is about 1300 watts. And this is nice because, you know, most homes, most outlets are 15 amp breakers, so Ford's staying just under that. If you had a 20 amp circuit, it'd be kind of nice if you could bump this up, you know, and get maybe 1800 watts or 1700 watts or something out of it. But it is what it is. And so that's often what I use here in the garage at home for topping up or replenishing my normal commute. I have a very short commute. And so a lot of times I'm driving the car 20 miles or less a day. And so that's very easy to replenish on 1.3 kilowatts an hour. That's about 3 miles or so every hour you're charging. So, you know, in 12 hours of charging overnight, that's 36 miles, you know, give or take, depending on weather conditions. This has a 70 kilowatt standard range battery. So if you're going to charge this here in the garage from dead on the 110 volt outlet, it would take 54 hours. So quite a while, you know, that's over 2 days. But most of the time you're not going to be charging that much, like I mentioned. If you had just gotten back from a trip and you wanted to fill it, you know, maybe to 90%, 20 to 90%, that'd take about 38 hours, so a day and a half or so. Another reason I do like charging here at home is my energy rates here in Idaho at my house are very affordable. I'm paying just about 8 cents a kilowatt. And so fully dead to fully full would be $5.60 here at home. You know, and that's good for easily 200 miles, probably a little bit more depending on your driving. Now I do not have the NEMA 1450 240 volt 50 amp circuit here in the garage. I have looked at installing that. I think part of the pricing on that is pandemic copper prices. Our electric panel here would have to be upgraded, so we'd have to go from a 100 amp panel to a 200 amp panel. You know, many newer houses or larger houses are going to have a 150 or 200 amp panel. So it was just going to be several $1,000s to put an outlet in the garage, and I just didn't think that was worth it at the time. I may do that down the road if those prices come down, or if I start doing more and more trips where I need to charge faster. And so that's why I don't have the 240 volt outlet in the garage. The other reason I don't have it is I can charge at work, and the electric rates at my work are actually cheaper than at my house. It's only 6 cents a kilowatt at work, and it's a level 2 charging, which would be similar to the 240 volt outlet in the garage. So I'm charging at 7 kilowatts an hour, so it would take 10 hours to fully fill this from dead, but generally you're not going from dead. So, you know, in several hours, you're definitely going to replenish what you're using and more in the day. And, you know, if you're at work for, you know, 8 hours, you would easily fill this, no problem. And like I mentioned, only 6 cents a kilowatt, so a full charge instead of $5.60 is $4.20. And, you know, generally if you're going 20% to 90%, that's only about $3. So very reasonable, faster charging. And so I also kind of use that in addition to what I can do here at home. And together, it didn't seem worth it to put in a faster outlet for me. Might be different for you. Also, Electrify America, which I'll talk more about as we keep talking about charging later, they're kind of my DC fast charging backup solution. There's one about 15 minutes from here, so you know it's a half-hour round trip to go charge up there, and you're going to use some of your charge to go do that. But if I'm like, I'm taking a trip tomorrow, I need to charge this up, I could go over there, plug it in 20 to 40 minutes, depending on what my battery level's at, be up high enough I can bring it back home and finish it charging here before going on the trip the next day, or same day, just hit that charger on my way out of town. So DC fast charging on the road, how have my road trips been? Well, I've taken the car to a couple places. I've taken it to Grand Teton National Park. I've taken it up to Spokane, Washington. Those have been the bigger trips I've done, and then I've just done some day trips to areas in northern Idaho and back. I've never gotten stranded, but I have had what I would consider to be some close calls. Not close calls from totally stranded, but close calls from, oh, this trip's about to get a lot longer. Primarily, Electrify America is really my only option for DC fast charging along the interstate, along I-84 here going through Idaho. That's really the only option. You'll occasionally come across maybe a charge point station or something that does do DC fast charging, and it might do 50 kilowatts, but 50 kilowatts isn't bad, but that means you're probably going to be there for about an hour or so to refill this with a 70 kilowatt battery. So, Electrify America stations are a lot more appealing when you can get 80 to 100 kilowatts for a lot of your charging session on this, and you're in that 30 to 40 minutes, I'll say, if you're charging most of the battery. Like I mentioned, I've never gotten stranded, but there's been many Electrify America stations where most of those stations have 4 chargers generally. Each charger has 2 cables on it in case one cable is bad. And I've had multiple times where I've rolled in and there's only one that actually works. And the one that works may or may not charge super fast. And the next station, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go another 10 miles and hit the next one. Well, that's not really the case here in Idaho, at least right now. The next one might be 80 miles from there. So this is kind of your only option. Now, there are lots of campgrounds here in Idaho, so I just bring my mobile charger with me. Could always roll into one of those and do some level 2 charging. So recharge 20, 30 miles in an hour. And maybe that is enough to get you to that next, DC fast charger, but that would be quite the hassle. So I'm excited for whenever more chargers get installed. Electrify America stations, there's new hardware going in kind of across the nation. In the wintertime, they're trying to upgrade them, which I think is a good time to do it. However, there's been some mixed reviews on the new hardware of actually being better or worse. It looks like in a lot of cases, sometimes it's worse, especially in cold conditions. And so as far as the reliability of Electrify America, I'm not sure it's going to get that much better, at least in the short term. So I've always been able to charge with this Mach-E at every single Electrify America I've been to. I've always been able to charge. But sometimes it was the last charger I tried worked. And other times I've driven up, plugged right in, and there was 2 or 3 other cars charging with me and everybody was doing well. What's interesting though is the standard range one actually is lighter because there's less cells, battery cells. And so its in-town EPA estimate is actually slightly better because it's hauling around less weight. I'll put the exact weight in there, but I want to say it's around 300 pounds. So if you're strictly doing mostly in-town driving on the daily, then I think it's a pretty good way to go with getting the standard range. It's still quick. It's going to be pretty much just as quick in that 0 to 30, 0 to 40 range. The efficiency is going to be a little bit better because you're in town. And you're hauling less weight around. And if you're charging at slower speeds, like if you're charging on a level 1 or level 2, you're going to actually be able to charge up faster because the battery is smaller. It's not until you get into the DC fast charging where the bigger pack is going to be able to take in more power. That was one of the interesting things that I did not know when I first was looking at this car is I thought the premium trim is what gave you the fast charging. When I say fast charging, the base model Select shows 115 kilowatt peak DC fast charging, and the premium trim shows 150 kilowatt DC fast charging. but actually has nothing to do with the trim. It has everything to do with, are you on a standard range battery pack or the larger extended range battery pack? And you can only get the larger battery pack on the Premium, GT, and the Route 1 edition. So I thought it was a select premium thing. It's not. So this car, even though it's the premium trim, because it's a standard range, its peak is 115. I think the highest I've seen is 113-ish, definitely over 100. And again, that's the peak. That's not a sustained amount. Sustained with this car, I've seen in the 70 to 80 kilowatt range DC fast charging. Okay, so how much does it cost to use DC fast charging when you're on the go? So with Electrify America, their pricing is 43 cents a kilowatt for non-members, 31 cents a kilowatt for members. The membership fee right now is only $4 a month. So if you're going to use it really at all, I would highly recommend that, because if you're going to do one full charge, you'll break even, and then the next charge you're going to be starting to save. So for the Mach-E here with the standard range battery, 70 kilowatts, at home and work, when I'm filling up, it's $4 to $5. At Electrify America, it's going to be $15 to $20, depending on how much you need to fill it up. You're paying for much faster charging and the convenience of having it on the go. And in terms of the charging speed, the Mach-E's are capable of 115 to 150 kilowatt peak. The standard range is 115. And so, this is much faster. I mean, the 110 volt outlet, that's 1.3 kilowatts. So, this is basically 100 times faster. Level 2 charger is going to be 7 to 8 kilowatts or so. So still a huge jump up in charging speed. You're not going to get that speed consistently the whole time. The battery needs to be at the right temperature. As you approach, 70, 80%, that speed starts to slow down, and then above 80%, that speed's going to drop even more to help protect and preserve the battery. So it's not a linear thing, but much faster charging. So if we were going to compare this to, a gas car, let's say 5-passenger SUV with good storage, and this has a good performance similar to this Mach-E here, I'm going to say whatever that vehicle is probably going to get about 25 miles per gallon, maybe a little more, a little less, depending on what motor is in it for highway driving. So let's take both vehicles on a 1,000-mile road trip. So the Mach-E, 200 miles, it's going to need to charge about 5 times. Let's say 4 of those times you pay Electrify America prices. One of the times you're, paying less than that, maybe charging at wherever you're staying for cheaper. So it's going to cost about $90 to do 1,000 miles, primarily on the Electrify America pricing. For the gas car, it's going to take 40 gallons of gas to go 1,000 miles at 25 mpg. At $3.50 a gallon, that's $140. So only about $50 more for the gas car, and you have the time savings of when you fill up, it's a lot faster than charging. For it to be equivalent, for the gas car to be about $90, gas would have to be about $2.30 a gallon. So if gas is below, at or below $2.50 a gallon, and time is, you don't want to take the time to charge, the gas car in that scenario is going to be the way to go. If gas is a lot more expensive, if it's in the $4 or $5 range, you're going to really enjoy paying the EV prices, even if it means adding some time for charging. One other thing on charging. A lot of EV folks, or if you tell somebody, hey, I just bought an EV, they'll usually reply with, oh, that's awesome. You'll never have to go to a gas station ever again. And they're like all excited for you, or, they're getting an EV and they're all excited about that. And I don't know, yeah, gas stations aren't my, in my top 10 list of favorite places to go, but I don't think a lot of people realize the state of charging, at least where I live, kind of in this Pacific Northwest area. It works, but it can be dicey, limited availability, and long distance between chargers. And so actually, that was not on my list of buying this car is, oh, I'll never have to go to a gas station again. Actually, gas stations are pretty great. Now, some of them can be sketchy. They're usually not very clean, but it's a place to fill up your car quickly. Have you ever gone to a gas station and you've never been able to fill up your car? That's pretty rare. Maybe you got some bad gas or the station was closed. Some gas stations aren't open 24 hours. Less common, but still possible. But then there might be another one down the street, so it's no big deal. But generally, I'm going to say, 99 out of 100 times, probably even more often than that. You got good reliability. There's a person that works there at most gas stations that's going to be keeping an eye on the pump. So if you have a problem with pump number 4, you go tell the attendant, and they'll either come fix it or they'll have maintenance come and take a look at it or whatever. They'll put a cone there and you'll go to the next pump. Well, that doesn't really happen with these charging stations. Nobody's there. They're only being maintained from remote, or whenever, if the charger is truly down and they've got somebody going on some maintenance repair route, that charger might get repaired, but that might be weeks or months compared to maybe just a few days, up to a week or so of a gas pump getting repaired. So just having an attendant there that's keeping an eye on everything, that's a big deal. There's a bathroom there. They try and make these charging stops, in a convenient location, like near a Walmart or something like that, but that's not always super convenient. Or a restaurant, maybe you have to go buy some food to use their bathroom, or maybe you have to, it's a long walk to get in there and you just want to charge up for 10 minutes. You don't really want to bother going all the way into the store for the restroom. So yeah, some gas stations do want you to buy something to use their restroom, but if you're buying gas, then you already bought something. So anyways, gas stations, I personally think, are pretty great when you're in the middle of nowhere and you're down to one charger and you're not sure if you're going to be able to charge. The gas station's looking pretty nice. Also, you just have to think about when you're going to charge this a lot more often, even just regular commuting. Now, a lot of folks will have the, NEMA 1450 level 2 charger in their garage, and they'll plug it in every night and they won't really think about it much. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I'm a little more paranoid about battery health, so I do try and minimize how much time this spends at, kind of above 80% and below 20%. And I try to stay a little more in the middle of the pack, or I'll drive in the upper end of the pack and then drive in the lower end of the pack for a while. And so I'm just more paranoid about it. I probably don't have to be, but it's my new car, and so that's just what I've been doing. And so I don't plug it in every time I come home because it's not necessary. I want to keep the battery at a certain state for a while and not always be plugging it in and charging it up. But if you did do that, you won't really have to worry about this too much. Although you may still have to think about it if you're taking a road trip the next day. Oh, did I set my max charge to 100% for tomorrow? Or, oh, I came home dead at 10 p.m., at night, and I'm leaving at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Even on the level 2 charger, you're not going to get all the way to full. So you just have to think about it maybe a little more often than some folks may realize. And when you go to the gas station, you just fill it up to 100%. And that's the end of it. There's no thinking about, oh, the gas tank health or any of that, unless the car is going to sit for a long time and you're going to put some stable in it or something. But you don't really have to think about that much. And so, yes, it's nice when you live in town not to have to go to the gas station. You can plug in at home. That's nice, but you're plugging in at home pretty often, and especially if you're on a 110 outlet, you're probably going to be plugging in fairly often, several times a week, if not every night if you don't have a work option. So you just have to think about it a lot more. Gas is still simpler, at least right now, in terms of thinking about it, in terms of getting it. You know, oh, I went and got gas. Done. Charging your car, it's a longer process, and you have to think about it some more. All right, well, that concludes everything that I can think of on charging for the Mach-E. And if there's things I didn't address or you'd like me to go into more detail on, leave that in the comments below, and maybe I'll make another video talking about those. So thanks again for joining, and we'll catch you next time. Back to the channel.